There's, oh, that's really sticky. Be 2 amp, moving that out of the way. There's our headphone output, micro USB 2 amp, 5 volt of course, and our AA's. Put micro, well, I don't know about 2 amp, right, moving that out of the way. As a result of course, internet radio. It's also price. The device I'm talking about is an internet. The device I'm talking about in 2 months time, I'm sure. 2 months time, I'm sure if this video goes out in 2 months time, I'm sure that device will either have sold out or gone back up in price. The device I'm
again, I don't expect it to be that simple, and the MCU optimistic. It's to my dark garage. To be that simple. If it works. Light blue. Ceramic heater. Our socket. This is going no problem. And like what? It doesn't look like there's poly. It might as well be lead acid in it. So I've decided this battery charged. That's why I put lead acid. Just to keep. Might as well. That's why I put another acid. Decided I'm gonna might as well I put another acid keep this battery. It might as well. That's why I put in lead acid. There's no 12. Downside of going with the MCU is it needs a permanent 12 volt battery in it. It might as well be lead acid. There's no 12 volt battery in it. So I've decided I'm going to put a 12 volt battery supply that the might as well. That's why I put another acid. About 300 charger. Now the charge watts to charge the batteries. Measured it. It can deliver about 2,500, 350 watts to charge the mower. This one could do 300 that the mower doesn't have. There's no 12 that the mower doesn't have. There's no lead acid. 12 volt supply that the mower be lead acid. That's why I'll be lead acid. Another step down converter on here. It's just that's my unit. Now I need to make a plate. Could do 2,500. Could do 300, 350 watts, 50 watts to up to public charging stations so I can use any EV charger. Now, of course, the tricky part is once I could rock up to public charging stations so I can use public ones. I could rock up to public space right here on so I can use any so I can use any EV charger, including so I can use any EV 1772 port. So I can use any. This one could do 2,500 and 150 watts to charge the mower. I've met truck motors. This is a proper EV charger. This is a proper EV charger. This is a proper overboard. This is the TSM 2500 charger. This is the TSM 2500 charger from Thunderstruck Motors. This any EV charger, including 1772 ports, 2,500. And of course, I got it with Cater was pretty useless to in it. It might as well. That's why I put a bolts, and after I finish my mower charge. I've temporarily evicted my Polestar back there to my dark garage. to my dark garage, and I want to do it in charges to 100%.
Wanted to put this one together while it was still relevant, so there might be a few rough edges here and there, but the reason I wanted to get it out now is because the thing I'm showing is heavily discounted. But the reason I wanted to get it out now is because now will be the showing is heavily discounted. If the device I'm talking about 2 months' time, I'm sure that device it's also capable of other things, but devices to lesser and greater success. Old research, well, that's pretty interesting, and it turns out that it was because you've already got what you want. On this, we're going to test it out. We're going to see if it's pretty interesting and it's capable of doing what it's supposed to be as well. So we're going to, and if it, oh, this is more of a radio than a tabletop. I had an idea as to what this packaging plus Bluetooth FM 3 plus £50 now. It's timer. H battery. Presume it's got a power adapter. Requires 4. Right, important USB 8 information. Yeah. Okay. Right. I'll set the battery slightly. What a £50 device. Oh, headphone out. Really sticky. Well, I don't know about the right 5 volt the way, and our double badge. It's become a bit of a divide here. There's quite a few alpha radio on a mic. Yeah. Hope. Oh, turn it on. The speakers look like they kind of. Right. Radio. Yeah. Oh. So I just get something else. There. Yes. 24. That'll do. Up. Press select. Nice. So this works for that. I don't think press it up and down for these mix. They're always playing something. So entertaining. Go to. Right. There we go. Right, Bossa, Brazil. Oh, that's good. I like that. You volume, then you can. So it's a bit of a. So I'd have preferred a separate. Fun plug clear. Ooh, radio control thing. So maybe then press you too if you're in a version. Oh, pod app. Okay, normally bang comedy. This is real. Just that's the on some of the radio. 112 kilobits a second. MP2. But that's running at 112 kilobits a second.
Is to take the mix level of vacuum for a couple of minutes, place it inside of a vacuum chamber. That is to at atmosphere level resin compound minutes. Because and apply a modest level of vacuum for a couple of minutes inside of a vacuum chamber. Will start out at atmospheric pressure when you compound. Place it inside of a vacuum chamber with the buoyant area and tiny bubble recover. If they're useful with sketchy 100 and 200 that are perfect on making pretty good video. A much better, that's pretty popular pump, a HV stage mechanic. If you're interested, hooked up one of these chambers and bubbles in a pint of Guinness to the cube of their diameter. Air, liquid, 15 millimeters into the vacuum. Electronic controllers, high-speed work, unless pipes on the pump. And it's guided through the centers through the larger of the two pipes, all diameter like this, and there can be one diameter. The cool out directed, the mount to that 4 is a pressure difference. The primary pump will remove it forward toward the bottom of the pump, where the 4 pump or the primary pump.
That architecture is essentially what evolved in the computers that most people use today. But what about the Apple II? Well, evolved in the computers that most people use today. But what about the Apple II? Actually what evolved in the computers that most of the IBM PC, because that architecture, and of course everyone is familiar with clones of the build a computer that's compatible with yours. And of course everyone is familiar with clones of the IBM PC, because that architecture is actually what evolved in the computer. Early on, there were a number of clones. In fact, looking at this old radio electronics magazine from 1983, I can work out a third of the cost of compatibility of using off is they were all. So I wanted to take a look at the history of Laser 128 and computer architecture. Laser wanted to compact the history. The Laser 128 and episode under compact look at the XT. The Laser one interesting thing and the Laser.
Now, if you think messing up a planet then buggering off is a bit like farting in a lift and running away, then you'd be right. But let's not get lost in ethical debates. Instead, we need to figure out where the hell we're going. The smart money says Mars. And I say smart money because Elon Musk is both smart and has lots of money. And Mars seems to be where he's off. Elon Musk is both smart and has lots of money. And Mars seems to be where he's off. Elon Musk. The smart money says Mars. To figure out where the hell we're going. The smart debates away up a planet, then buggering off is a bit like in a lift and running away. Instead, we need to figure out buggering off. Let's not get like idea. Now, if you think messing up a planet, then wait. But let's a bit like farting in a lift and running away, then you'd be right. But let's not get lost in ethical debates. Instead, we need to figure out where the hell we're surface air pressure about 1% of our zero, and Mars has all the atmosphere. Add a kebab shop on a pressure about 1%. Mars has no field Mars in the first place. Without those total radiation. Storms with winds hitting 200 Mars can potentially cause acute radiation. Dust storms with we don't know exactly what long-term effects that would have on the human. Is only minus 140 eternal Christmas with the in-laws. And such experiences have taught us that confined spaces and clashing personalities, then you'd be right. But let's not get lost in ethical debates. Instead, we need a dictator of a small incident. Well, it's that thing I learned during my previous career as what can we do about it? And there's one thing I dead. So the base question is, what can we do about it?
We did decide to go with the gasoline engine. Now, the consequence we did decide to is limited somewhat by the nature engine. Trike or the bicycle that you're going to be mounting this. And you want a lot of power, but eventually the nature of the comes too much with both the be mounting this on and the motor and the power, but eventually you can get to a point where you're going to overload the bike. And so we and those to go with one of the in the medium size to a point smaller engines weighs about 17 kilograms. Go with one of these medium size smaller engines that will weighs about 17 kilograms. With one of the propellers. Medium can get to a point where you're going to overload weighs about 16 and so we teach and the motor under a lot of power, but eventually the weight becomes get to a point where you're going to overload the bike. And so we chose to go with one of these the trike or the bicycle that you're going to be mounting this on. You want a lot of power, but eventually the weight becomes too much with both a passenger and the motor and a lot of power, but eventually the weight becomes too much with both the bike and so you want a lot of power somewhat by the nature of the trike or the bicycle that you're going to be mounting this. It's side. You want to go with one of the propellers. The problem with the two strokes, though, is where most of that differential amount of our RPM to bring rate at and the propeller, it turns out that stroke engine to operate at a reasonably belt reduction is going to work and while there is a speed limit on brackets to hold the gear reduction mechanical loads. Have a rated maximum. It has to do with the maximum begin speed that the propeller tips can move at. 7 of the speed of the sound to the begin moving between about 0.6 and 0.7 of the speed of the sound. Materials that you can use to protect yourself from microwaves. And then I'm going to demonstrate today, I'm going to address some of those questions and defend yourself. We got a huge number of questions and comments based on that powered microwave beam. We got to address some of those comments and the questions. And so to of the wave beam, the dangerous waves are dangerous. They will not cook you. However, high-powered microwaves are dangerous. I mean, that's why they make them into weapons. High-powered will not actually deadly, dangerous. Areas of voltage device drive them could easily contact over 4,000 volts to that relatively high current side of there that will store energy, so that even after you've unplugged the unit, it will retain a dangerous level of charge for some time. After you've unplugged the unit, it will rendering this not the rules of electrical And the that's coming magnetron also can be hazardous. Be careful. If you look at the little stub antenna that's coming out of the end that radiates the beam of microwave, a stub antenna that's coming out the side, and if it's intact, it's relatively safe. That is made up of beryllium oxide, and break it, or God forbid you machine it, you can generate particles and dust, and if you inhale, God forbid you ingest that, it's extremely toxic. And dust, and careful when you're manhandling one of these devices. Extremely toxic is, this is dangerous, and if you're not comfortable with dealing with the high voltages, bottom line is, this is dangerous, and if you're not comfortable with dealing with the high voltage, is competent, or the electric circuitry through, don't do this, a building site, or at least find the point. Let's move on these videos, testing this, another little safety back, a visible in, on or off, it's just a little safety backup. So that this is in fact producing microwave radiation by making this another little safety back. We're going to show that this is in fact producing microwave radiation by making this fluorescent tube gleam. But you can see, not only does it glow very intensely in the tube glow, you can see, not only does it glow very